Hello Nintendo Wii here, welcome back to Let's Play Retro Games. Today I'm going to be doing a series review of one of my favourite game series ever, WarioWare. If you're not aware already, WarioWare just had its latest release on the 3DS. It's called WarioWare Gold and it actually includes a lot of minigames from some of the past games in the series. So I thought to celebrate the release of WarioWare Gold, it would be a fun idea to go back and take a look at some of the older games, where they came from, what games they've included in this, and some of the other games they didn't include and you might not even know about. So, great video coming up, thank you very much for watching and I really hope you enjoy it. So before WarioWare was even a thing, there was a minigame on one of the Mario Artist games for the 64DD called Sound Bomber. If you want to know more about this, there's an amazing video out there by Beta64 which goes into loads of detail in all the background and history of WarioWare, but basically there was a small set of minigames and the developers then went on to take them minigames, add about 200 more, and they came up with this. So, the first game in the WarioWare series, and this is the one that started it all, it's a really fun game. Basically, it's a collection of lots and lots of very small and fast minigames. You go through a set of different characters and eventually you end up at Super Wario, and then you unlock loads of compilations of all different minigames put together. There's some really fun and interesting characters like Jimmy T, crazy 70s disco guy with a big afro, and he has a flip phone that opens up when he's on the dance floor, and all the minigames play through that phone. I really love the way that they introduce the characters and the games sort of play as part of their story as they go along. One of the things I think they did really well in the Wario games in general, over all of the games in the series, are the amazing cutscenes, and the humour in the game is really fun too. It's just a joy to play, and every single minigame has its own art style, its own way of playing, and it's so simple because you can sort of pick the game up straight away and kind of have an idea what to do, but it only gives you like one little word and you have to try and figure out how to finish the game from that. There's also a few longer games, they're not all just 3 or 4 seconds. There's some that you can unlock that you can just play endlessly, they're sort of high score games. My favourite of which is called Pyoro, which you unlock when you've actually completed the entire game. My other favourite in the original game is called Paper Plane, and both of those actually got their own releases on the DSi as part of the download series, and they're really fun to play on their own, but I definitely recommend going and getting the original GBA game. It's also been re-released on the Wii U Virtual Console, so you can go and download it on that. And if you had an ambassador version of the 3DS, you can also download it on there and play it on the 3DS. And it also got released about a year later on the GameCube. It's more or less the exact same game, except it's got a lot more multiplayer elements that this one was missing. I'd really recommend it if you've got a GameCube because it is a lot of fun, but just don't expect anything that really shows off the power of the GameCube. It really is just a GBA game enlarged to the TV, but it does take advantage of the multiplayer support like I just said, so highly recommend both of these games. Now for the second game in the series, and my favourite game out of all of them, this is WarioWare Twisted. It never got an official release in the UK. I remember being so excited for it back in the day, and I'd always see the release date slip in the magazines, and then eventually it just had TBC, and then they were just silent about it. I'm not entirely sure why it didn't get released. I think it's something to do with the motion sensor not passing some laws in Europe or something like that, which is a real shame because the game is really fun. Of course I imported it from America as soon as I realised it was cancelled over here. And we really did miss out. It's by far my favourite in the series. It's not just a tilt sensor, it actually also has a little rumble pack inside as well, which feels really good when you're playing it. And I also really love the unlockable games that you get in the game as well. My favourite of which is Mutroid. It's basically a game where you play as a cat and you tilt the GBA really fast, left or right, and you can sort of shoot lasers at all these aliens that are coming down at you. So much fun. I remember having so much fun with it back in college. I would pass the GBA around and we'd aim to get high scores together. It's really great. If you've never played it before and you've got a GBA, really worth tracking down. As I said before, some of the minigames are in WarioWare for the 3DS, WarioWare Gold, but not all of them, so if you want the complete experience, get this. There's also a really amazing boss fight at the end of 9 Volt stage, where you basically play the whole of the original Mario Bros for the NES, but the actual stage sort of turns, so you're sort of tilting the GBA and Mario constantly runs, but the rest of the stage sort of comes up over the hill. I was just blown away by that back in the day, really amazed. Really amazing game, my favourite game on the GBA, quite possibly. And just like the first game, one of my favourite unlockable games in WarioWare Twisted is the Pyoro game on that as well. Every single one of these WarioWare games has some sort of reference to Pyoro. It's basically a game that Wario made so that he could become famous and get loads of money or something. I think that's the whole point of all the games actually, that he just wants to keep making these games and make more money. All these new systems come out and he thinks of crazy schemes. Now we're moving on to the third game in the series, and the final game that's actually part of WarioWare Gold. This one is called WarioWare Touched. It's really fun, it's probably my least favourite of the original 3 games, but it's still incredible. If you've got a DS, I'd definitely recommend getting it. It was one of the first games to ever come out on the 3DS, and it really shows because basically this game was made to show off the system. It's got so many different things you can do with the touchscreen. There's specific minigames where you just have to spin things around, ones where you just have to poke things, one where you have to slide things. There's even a new character they introduced just for this game called Mike, and of course, you guessed it, all of his minigames just feature microphone input. Which was really annoying for me at the time coming home from school and college, because I'd be coming home on the bus trying to play this, and Mike's games were off limits because they would just constantly blow into the microphone the whole time. Which is a bit annoying, but if you've got somewhere quiet to play, then you can really enjoy this game to its fullest. And that's kind of one of the problems with the 3DS one as well, you can't really play it when you're out and about. And there's loads of different characters, as I said, there's a few new ones along the way, and the cutscenes are really fun once again. Everything's just so bright and colourful and crazy. And, of course, Pyoro's back again for a third time. So, although this one came out after the Wii game, I'm going to talk about it first, just because it's a 3DS game. This is a really interesting game actually, it's called WarioWare DIY. I think it's fairly hard to find these days, and I don't really hear a lot about it. It's fairly complicated, but basically this game lets you make your own WarioWare minigames from scratch. Basically gives you every tool that you'd need to create any 3 or 5 second game that you could possibly think of. At the time as well, you can also connect it to the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection and actually download other people's games. I really enjoyed it at the time, but now of course that connection's offline, so you can't download or upload your own creations, but it's still really fun to mess around with, although it is a bit hard to get used to at first. You have to go through a lot of tutorials to figure out what to do, but it's definitely a really interesting game. And if you just want to play it for the single player content, then don't worry, because there are quite a few minigames that are just built into the collection anyway. So I'd really recommend this if you're looking for something a bit different, and if you're looking for something that is not included on WarioWare Gold. On the Wii actually, you could download something called the WarioWare DIY Player, and basically it means that you could download games off the Nintendo Online connection onto the Wii and play other people's creations that way. So you can't get that anymore, unfortunately, and I don't have it on my Wii to show you, but it was just another way that you could enjoy the WarioWare series. Talking about the Wii, this one is insane. This is called WarioWare Smooth Moves, and it's so much fun. I think this game was made entirely just to make people look stupid in front of their friends. It really is. The game basically revolves around loads of different ways of holding and using the Wii Remote and Nunchuck. Just have a look at these original adverts for the game to see the kind of crazy things that you'll get up to. Really is a lot of fun. I got it on launch day and I remember having a blast with it. It's really, really funny. There's a few little things that means, for me personally, it doesn't quite live up to the other WarioWare games in the series. There's not as much single player content, of course, because it's mostly a multiplayer game, but one thing that really drags the game down for me is the fact that you can't replay the minigames to try and get high scores like you can on all the other ones. From what I remember, you just go through the 3 different levels and that's it. It's still really fun though, as I said about all the other games, it's got really great cutscenes, the art style, the animation, everything about it is just so much fun. And the last game in the WarioWare series, it's not actually called WarioWare, it's just called Game & Wario. And this is basically made to show off the Wii U's gamepad. All the games take advantage of it in some way or other. It's not entirely like the other WarioWare games in the series. These games are actually a lot longer. Think of it as more of something like Nintendo Land. There's a lot of great single and multiplayer games on the collection, It's getting kind of hard to find these days though, and I wouldn't really bother paying the kind of prices that they're asking for these days, but if you ever find it cheap, it's definitely worth picking up just to experience some of the fun mini-games. I love the first one where you sort of hold the Wii remote, hold the Wii U gamepad sideways, and you sort of pull your finger back and flick the arrows at all the little Wario robots that are coming at you. There's some really fun ones as well. 9 Volt, once again, is really fun. You have to play your DS in bed, and whenever his mum comes in, you have to hide under the covers so she doesn't catch you playing and stuff like that. It's a really inventive collection, but some of the games are a bit hit and miss. Overall though, if you find it cheap, I'd definitely recommend it. There was one more game that I forgot to mention because it's not a physical game in the WarioWare series. That is called Wario Ware Snapped, and it came out on the DSi. It was one of the very first games that was ever available on the eShop for the DSi, and it's not great. From what I remember, there's only about 6 mini-games, and they only last a few minutes each. Basically, it was just made to take advantage of the new camera on the DSi. I did do a video review of it about 9 years ago, so it might be a bit hard to watch these days, but I'll put it over here in the little eye in the corner, or it might come up over here, and I'll put a link in the description so you can go and watch it. I wouldn't really recommend downloading it these days because it is a really clunky game and it doesn't really work that well. It was only really made to show off what the DSi could do, which is not a lot, to be honest, especially these days. It won't really impress you very much at all, so never mind, it's still a little interesting oddity in the WarioWare series. So that was all the games in the WarioWare series up till today. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. The WarioWare series is one of my favourite series of all time. Let me know what your first game in the series was, or if you've never played any of them before. Have you thought about picking up WarioWare Gold? Let me know in the comments below. I would highly recommend it. It's a really great collection of all the best mini-games over the first 3 games in the series, plus a load of new exclusive things, and the ability to dub your own cutscenes, which is just hilarious. So, that's it from me and from Wario. Thank you very much for watching. As always, don't forget to check out my Patreon, leave a comment below, and subscribe if you haven't already. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye!